Na 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 na. Hey, gotta love that podcast show. Na 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 na. Hey, yeah, I love that podcast show. Oh, BS and beer is the place to go to get all the Saints news. Hell yeah, podcast show. Na 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 na. Hey, gotta love that podcast show. Na 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 na. Hey, yeah, I love your podcast show.
Now, recording live, it's the BS and Beer Podcast crew with your host, David Romero.
Welcome in another week, another edition. It's the BS and Beer Podcast crew recording live from our new studios at Mead House Fork. I'm going to have Heath Elson-San. I'll have Wesley Coleman. I'll have Tomas Mauricio, the whole crew together today to talk about the Saints' loss to the Packers. 37-30, the Saints dropped their second in a row. And listen, as much as we want to talk about the game, the big talk around the internet, the Who Dat Nation, is what's going on with Drew Brees. Now, is it anything? Is it nothing? Is it something? We're going to break it down. We're going to talk to you about it because that's what people are really wanting to talk about right now, and that's what they're most upset. Are their feelings a little misguided? Maybe we'll find out. But before we do, I want to talk to you about my friends, the Nunez family, Fishing Magician Charters. Listen, if you like to go fishing or you like any kind of activity with your friends, Louisiana is sportsman's paradise, right? So you want to go out, you want a group to go fishing, big group, small group, whatever it is, call 504-674-3317, and that's the Fishing Magicians Charters, okay? They'll take care of you. They have, like I said, you can spend the night if you like to. If you want to do an overnight thing, they provide food. I bet you they'd even put the worm on the hook for you. Dial 504-674-3317 and talk to my friends, okay? They'll take care of you. Fun outdoor activities. But until then, sit back, relax, grab a drink, because we're about to do the New Orleans Saints BS and Beer style. You're not going to want to miss it.
Tonight on BS and Beer Radio Broadcast Corporation Incorporated, it's the Action Suspense Airline Highway at 9:30. Followed by this year's award-winning suspense thriller, Camp Beast. Next, it's hilarious family fun suitable for all ages with Drew, Sean, and Mickey. Then, it's Sex in the Cell Block, the hot new show that's too racy for daytime. That's Sex in the Cell Block at 11 tonight. Then, it's Saints Talk with Dave, Tomas, Heath, and the BS and Beer Podcast crew. Every night here on the BS&B Radio Broadcast Corporation Incorporated, a limited liability corporation.
All right, let's bring in for the first time this season the whole BS and Beer Podcast crew all on one feed at the same time. I don't know if we'll be able to, if the fans will be able to handle it, but we have Tomas, we have Heath, we have Wesley, all right here on the show for you. Okay, I don't know what direction we're going to go in the sense that we can do the good, the bad, and the on fleek, or if we need to talk about a crisis in New Orleans. Tomas, I just feel like I want to turn that little thing on your back there, wind you up, and let you go. So I'm going to say, do we need to talk about how poorly the defense has been playing, or should we talk about every fan on the internet is talking about Drew Brees is no longer capable of playing football at a level we need to play him at. And matter of fact, they're even going further. That was my take. They're saying he can't even do it anymore. He needs to go. They're talking about bringing in backups.
Well, if you're asking me this question, I would say to you that we all talked about after the game the Brees situation, and I think we all came to the same conclusion that it's really not a Brees issue in and of it by itself. I would say that on both sides of the ball, the real question is, do we have coaches that can coach discipline on both sides of the ball? Because that's really the major sticking point, is players playing in an undisciplined manner, and that was what caused that little pass that they constantly killed us with, was simply people didn't stay in their position.
Right,
so,
that bootleg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Heath, before we get into too much depth, the Saints are leading the league in penalties, penalty yardage, but man, we had a fake horse collar tackle. We had some PI that was just not PI, and I'm not even talking about the one in the end zone, you know, at on the fourth down is frustrating because there's no way in the world an opposing quarterback should come into your dome and be able to do a hard count on you. It's just, it shouldn't happen, and it's frustrating because we have no fans in the stands. But these penalties, is it lack of discipline, or is it I mean, it's the same team as last year.
Yeah. Well, you know, as I recall, we ran too many penalties last year too. But, you know, I don't know if it's just a lack of discipline or just kind of like, you know, the Saints are a typical slow starting team, and then you remove the regular offseason, all the preseason games. And it's almost like, you know, it's not going to be until maybe game 7 that we can expect this team to get itself in gear, you know, but we also by far lead the league in phantom penalties, right? Like I've never seen anything like this in my life. I mean, we complain about penalties constantly, but it seems to just continue to get worse somehow instead of getting better. I mean, the horse collar thing, the push off in the end zone, that should have been offensive pass interference. I mean, I could go on, but you saw it.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating to me because I feel like again, when things happen, all fans believe that their team is getting a short end of stick. Like, for instance, holding penalties. They are always holding us. They're always holding us. But these are situations where just you see these penalties that were obvious not penalties, not a holding call that's like, well, he shouldn't have done. But we're talking about then there's a fourth down play, Wesley. It was a turning point in the game, and while we did have it overturned, they tried to give him it was at least a yard that they gave him, and tried to place him on a situation where they would get the first down.
That was a good yard and a half. That wasn't even close with him getting it. And so they're definitely, I would say, if I'm more concerned about Breeze, the defense, or the penalties right now, I'm the most concerned about the penalties. I think that there's other things we've seen that I have faith that we're 3 games into a season that had no preseason, and there's things that can be fixed. I don't know. The penalties is insane. And again, I do not want to be that Saints fan that's saying that the league is out to get us, that umpires are having meetings about screwing over the Saints, or there's something about the black and gold jersey where they throw flags. Like, I don't want to get into that. But holy crap, it's been 3 years in a row of us seeing weird things happen. And I'm not saying that I'm starting to believe it, but I understand how other people do now. And it's just really weird. And I mean, you see not just Saints media, but national media blowing up on Twitter about all these different calls. And how is this happening to the Saints again? Like, and it's just really weird, and it's concerning. And I don't know if that can be fixed. But I mean, we're on a alarming crash course on penalties and yards and all.
I agree with you. I feel the exact same way. I don't want to be the team that the refs are always out to get us, but there are just too many things. And look, listen, after the game or during the game, you're frustrated. You're going to say those things. It's part of just, oh, man, it shouldn't have happened to. But even after the game, when you had a little time to relax and overcome those feelings, the thoughts, and you look at it and you just say, man, it's hard not to say, it feels like you're doing it on purpose. He wasn't even close. You tried to give it to him. Thank God that we had instant replay in that situation. Now, let's talk a minute, and I want to get everyone's opinion on the Drew Brees thing because, okay, first of all, in the offseason, I did a podcast. We did a show, and I said, and I'm kind of just resetting the table, that it's not that I didn't think Brees was the best option at this point. It was that I think even Brees at his best may not be good enough to take the Saints to the Super Bowl. Now, I backed off of that, and mainly because of all the offseason moves. I'm like, well, Brees might not be based on the team we had, but now we've added players, we've strengthened our defense, we've added depth, we should have improved offensive line. But after 3 games, and I'm still trying to be patient. It seems like, is this team going to be good enough, even if we get it back together, even if the team gets back on course, is Drew Brees going to be the guy that can make plays when nothing's there and get us to the Super Bowl? Not just a playoff visit, Tomas, not just the second round of the playoffs. We're talking about Super Bowl level here.
Well, I was trying to find it while we were talking. I read a statistic, and I can't find where it is, where they talked about the average yardage that Drew Brees is getting on his passes. And he's like one of the worst because he's throwing everything 3 yards and then expecting something to happen. I know I brought this up. I think Wesley was the one who answered me when I said, I remember the days when he used to talk about, wow, Brees connected with 9 players or more in a game. And I think Wesley was the one who told me, well, he did do like 8 or 9 in this particular game.
8 this week and 9 last week.
Yeah. And so, but the point I was trying to make was that he wasn't just throwing the ball 2 yards down the field and hoping upon hope. He was actually hitting, Devery Henderson 20 yards down the field, or he was hitting, Jimmy Graham 15 yards down the field. I just feel that the problem that I see with Brees, I don't think that he doesn't have it. I don't think that you just drop off the edge of the cliff that quick.
I agree with you.
But I think that he doesn't have the confidence for some reason, either in the receivers or in himself, to get the ball out there to, 7 to 15 yards and then do the run after. And like I said to somebody else, I still think that part of it is that Michael Thomas has sort of become the Jimmy Graham for him. It's like he only looks for Michael Thomas, even though, again, Michael Thomas gets open. I mean, people double team him, triple team, and he still gets open. I understand that. But it just doesn't seem that he has – surely everybody else on that team can run a slant, and surely he can throw the slant for 7 or 8 yards to somebody else, and I really think Traquan Smith really has the tools to do it, and when he throws him the ball, he does a good job. So – and I'm glad that he threw the touchdown to Sanders. But he just doesn't seem to have the confidence. You see him when's the last time you saw Brees double clutch so many times in a game?
A lot. It's not just once. It seems to be almost every pass play indecision. Heath, is Drew Brees, has he lost confidence? We talked about this. We were all trying to figure out what is going on, and I don't know if anyone came to a conclusion. We had a lot of theories, but is it Drew Brees? Is it confidence?
I don't know. I agree. There's no way in the world you can convince me that Drew Brees can no longer throw the ball 20 yards down the field. Okay, so it's not some drop-off between last year and then a conspiracy by Sean Payton to call different plays because he knows he's got to protect Drew Brees and some of the crazy stuff that I've been reading that people are coming up with. I don't know. I don't know if it's that Drew Brees doesn't have the confidence in the players to throw the ball down the field, or even possibly himself, but not because of arm strength. Maybe if it's something else, I don't know. Or if it's play calling. I don't know if, like a lot of these swing passes to Kamara out of the backfield, those are design plays. He's dropping, turning, and throwing it. That's not a check down. That's a design play. So I can't figure it out, but what I can say is I want Sean Payton to figure out that for the last couple of games at least, we've been able to run the ball fairly well. And so, maybe we need to shift the balance on his team a little bit. We had that balance in 2009 when we went to the Super Bowl. So it's a good thing in and of itself anyway, but Kamara is back to being Kamara. So he's going to bust some runs and do what he does, but Murray has been getting 4, 5, 6, 7, even 10 yards a pop going straight ahead at times. Yeah. So they've been able to open holes for the running game. And so we don't need Brees to be Superman. Of course, we have to get the defense. So to go back to your original question, if we were to get it together and the defense would play to the ability that we thought they'd be able to play with the talent they have, and if all the other pieces fall in place, well, then Drew Brees doesn't need to be the Drew Brees that we had in 2009 to win a Super Bowl anymore.
Right. Now, Wesley, I saw a video, an NFL scout going over Drew Brees' film from the Raider game, and he seemed to believe that the checkdowns are largely part of the defense giving it to him. Do you feel he lost confidence? Is he taking what the defense is giving to him?
Well, I'll say first, these are sound like conflicting answers. One, I do not think that Drew Brees has lost confidence. You see him after the game, he's saying that he knows he didn't play well, or there's some things they could have done better, but he doesn't seem to have lost confidence in himself. The other part of the question that you asked, though, is he the player that can lead us to the Super Bowl? No, but I don't think he's supposed to be either. Wesley and Tomas are supposed to lead us to the Super Bowl this year, not Drew Brees. There's a difference. 4 years ago when those guys weren't here, he had to be that guy. He doesn't need to be that Drew Brees anymore. He doesn't need to be 2011 Drew Brees. He's got to be better than this Drew Brees. I'm not saying that, but he doesn't have to be the guy leading us to the Super Bowl. And again, let's give credit on both sides. Let's give credit to Green Bay. And again, I've seen lots of people breaking down the film. In the first half, when we were running the ball, they had 6 people in the box on a lot of plays, and we were rushing the ball. We rushed the ball 12 times. Later in the game, in the second half, they had 7 and 8 people in the box, but they still kept the 2 deep safeties. And you have to throw checkdowns against that defense, or you have to throw it over the top against that. Brees didn't have a single pass over 20 yards. On 10 to 19 yards, he was 5 for 6. So he wasn't terrible, but we didn't even take the shot downfield. But you could tell he double clutched on some he wanted to. Yep. And again, let's go back to this. Green Bay looks like they're probably the best team in the NFC right now. Like Seattle's undefeated, Chicago's undefeated. Green Bay, I think, looks better than them. We're a Taysom Hill fumble away from winning this game. That's a 10-point swing if we kick the field goal there. So as terrible as this game was, the defense didn't guard anybody ever on a rollout the entire game. We had all these penalties. Drew Brees had all the checkdowns. If Taysom Hill doesn't fumble, we kick a field goal and they don't get the 7-point touchdown there. I mean, that's a 10-point swing at least. So let's try to, again, like the Minnesota game, we were so mad about that last year, but we went into overtime against them. Right. We're playing terrible for 4 quarters.
So, Wesley, are you telling me
we're not as far away as it looks or it feels? Maybe.
Are you telling me that we have a chance?
Man, I'm not happy with how Drew Brees has played. I'm really not happy with the way Sean Payton has called plays. Having said that, these guys have way too much skin in the game and have been way too proven for years for me to write them off after 3 games in a season where we had no real training camp preseason. Now, our defense has sucked for years. If our defense still sucks, that's disappointing because I really thought this was going to be the year that the defensive backs were better. Last year it was, I don't know, Marcus Williams was terrible this last game. 2 weeks ago, Jenkins was terrible against the Raiders. He played good this week, and then Marcus Williams is terrible against the Packers. We seem to have a problem somewhat. And again, how long have we had that problem? I guess I'm getting used to it. I'm not used to Brees and Peyton having bad games and calling bad games and all that. And I'm not ready to write them off. Now, if we're still having this conversation 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, and that's really, that's the way I look at it, is I'm going to be patient because essentially we have no choice. And at some point, what we're hoping for is for this team to settle in, find its identity, and start getting into a rhythm where, again, everything to me that's going on with Drew Brees is the same Drew Brees that's been going on for the last couple of years. Something else, the short passing game, this has been – so the difference is we're not winning. And you can also – maybe it's just a scheduling thing, but we did find out the Raiders weren't as good as we would maybe want to believe after they beat us. So it's just one of those things. Are they going to – you just want to make sure – that they settle in time for it not to be too late. What is too late? We don't know yet. Is it too late to get a home playoff game? Is it the 13 games we talked about? It doesn't seem like that's going to be in the cards simply because if they do get hot where they need to be, they're already going to have a handful of losses. But Heath already called it. He said, Detroit, it ain't happening. We're going to lose in Detroit. I don't know if that was a moment of passion. Heath, what do you think the future holds? The near future. When do they clean it up, if they clean it up?
Well, I don't know, man. Detroit plays tough.
Yes.
Now the good news is that Detroit finds really inventive ways to lose games. Much like the Saints of my childhood, we snatch defeat from the jaws of victory on a regular basis. But I don't see the Saints going on the road and doing it in Detroit. If they haven't been able to do it in the Dome, now I realize, there's no fans, so it's a little different situation, but it's always a different situation when you're not in your own bed and you're on the road, whether there's fans or not. And I don't know I'm not actually sure if there will be fans in Detroit or not. But, if they're going to, they're going to have to bring it, because Detroit's they're not just a rollover. They're not a gimme. And with the way the defense has been playing, Stafford could light them up. That's something they can do. He can do is throw the ball. And so, to me, the defense playing poorly is even more puzzling than what's happening on the offense, because you understand the offense takes some time to get it. It's very intricate, especially Sean Payton's offense, and complexities and all the personnel groups. And defense is a little more straightforward. Yes, there are some calls and some different, but to a large extent, if you line it up and playing man-to-man, it's pretty basic, and they're getting beat at it badly. And so that's the one that I really can't figure out. So we need to spend some more time looking at that, because that one's a bigger mystery to me, what's going on in the defense.
Tomas, what do we have to do to turn this around? Where?
Well, I want to respond to my dear friends that the panic is over, because the Saints have signed someone who's going to come in and really work.
Oh, please no.
Okay, it's a little comedic moment. Okay, you have to understand. You have to lighten up.
Tomas referring to the re-signing of our old friend. Go ahead, Wesley. Give us the scouting report.
Hey, Ken Penalty Crawley.
Ken push off pass interference Crawley.
Well, look, I just thought I'd bring up a little levity for us. You see. Now, in truth, I would say this. On the defense, don't you all feel that Lattimore has sort of slipped into that place again where he's sort of lackadaisical when he's out there, and that the other coaches see it on the other team and say, hey, we're going to go pick on that side because he's not really playing like the Lattimore we expect?
No, Tomas, 100%. It seems like, listen, I don't have the statistics. I haven't seen the all 22, but man, it seems like they're not only getting plays on him, they're actually throwing to him more than you see him throwing at Jenkins on the other side.
Yes.
Not that that's any difficult task either.
It's been pretty easy going. Now listen, okay, if we take a step back, and I'm trying to be optimistic, but then the first thing, as soon as I said this and I was about to make a point, I thought, well, last week we went against the Raiders, who had two rookie wide receivers and, Carr. But we did go up against Aaron Rodgers and a 13-win team last year. So, but they also didn't have one of their best receivers, not one of their best, their very best receiver in Adams. Go ahead, Wesley.
Well, so the Lions won last week 26-23 against Arizona. And Kyler Murray threw 3 of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. Like, he was throwing some Jameis Winston type interceptions.
Yeah.
3 points. Before that, the Lions have lost 11 games in a row. Like, they're a bad team. Us playing the Lions and then next week the Jaguars, this is 2 teams that if we lose either of these games, I start thinking about maybe shaking stuff up. Makes sense. But this is – I realize that we're looking from our perspective of watching how bad the Saints are. These 2 teams that we're playing next are terrible. These are not good teams.
Guess what? Newsflash, so are the Saints.
Yeah.
But
well,
the thing about this is the thing I'll say about Detroit, though. Yeah, they lost 11 in a row, but they lost all 11 by 3 points or less, and probably led 10 of them with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
And they did it also, I want to say, with a lot of them without Matthew Stafford, who was injured at the end of last year.
They're competitive is all I'm saying. And so I hope the Saints don't have a feeling like they all pat themselves on the back right now because they can go right the ship against a bad Detroit team, because it won't happen.
That would be a comedic moment. And I can't help it, because that's the rap that now Lattimore has, is that, well, I'm too good to play hard against this guy. Can you imagine Lattimore's in the Saints locker room right now? Like, all right, fellas, we got this. We ain't going to practice this week. Nah, we just take it easy because we play Detroit.
There's a dude named Galladay. He might want to pay attention to.
Yeah. So, okay. So now I forget which one of you alluded to it, but Wesley, you said, okay, if we lose either one of the next two games, then we got to start considering. And considering what? I mean, we're not benching Breeze. It's not going to happen. The Saints are not going to bench a Hall of Fame quarterback unless he's injured. Now, could he pull one of those Caddyshack moments when my back and bring in the bringing the backups and let
the same injury that our punter got?
What's that?
The same injury that our backup punter got? So
yes, exactly. Yeah. And go on IR until, let's say, the last home game of the season where he comes, starts, finishes the season out. At what point, and I want to get everyone's opinion. I'll start with you, Wesley, because it was kind of your comment. At what point, I mean, how does this all work out? I mean, and two, when in this, Taysom Hill, I mean, I keep seeing things. I'm not sold on Jameis Winston, although I think he has the most potential to do something to help the Saints. I saw Hill drop back to pass two wide open receivers because the entire defense assumed it was a run. And not only did he not see the receivers, he pulls it down and he runs the ball. I mean, I'm not sold on the guy, and I haven't been, and he's just reinforcing what I already believe. Go ahead, Wesley. Let's get your thoughts.
I mean, again, I guess it comes down to who's making that decision. If we lose one of these next 2 weeks looking the same way with Breeze looking that way, then I would say that it's time that we need to, for the future of the Saints, which is, as a Saints fan, what I'm the most concerned about, it's time to start figuring out what we have with Winston or Hill or both. Having said that, Sean Payton's not going to do that.
Right. I like that you prefaced it with that. That's how I feel about it.
He's 100% not going to. And I don't know how bad Breeze might lose 5 games in a row before he would get benched. I mean, I don't like he'd have to. I mean, him and Peyton have something special. But having said that, Peyton signed a 5-year extension last year.
Right.
Has to have a little bit of the same thoughts as us, as the future kind of matters, and setting us up, for what's going to be down the road and figuring that out. I mean, having said, I don't believe that's the way that we're going. But after these next 2 games, you're talking about the Falcons, the Colts, and
those guys. Tomas, I'm going to throw the caveat in there. Same question as Wesley got, with the caveat of should they?
All right, so I would approach it this way. And as I tweeted this out, I'm not tweeted out, but I texted it out to you guys. I'm sick and tired of what the coach is doing with Taysom. When it first started, it was very good because the other team had no idea what Taysom could do. So they just blew up, it's some guy, wants to be a running back or a tight, and then he starts blowing these people up. And then they're like, oh my gosh. Now, every coach out there now understands who Taysom Hill is as the, Swiss Army knife, right? So they all look, well, he's running back. So to me, it comes to a point, sort of like what Wes is saying here. You got to think about the future. Okay, either play him as a quarterback or say, you know what, son, we just want you as a Swiss Army blade, and so we're going to put you in all these other positions here and go with that, and then just go on to crab legs. I mean, it's just that simple, But this constant is the other team, you have to give credit to the other team. Green Bay knew when Taysom was in the game, they played defense a certain way.
Absolutely.
Because they knew, hey, you know what? If we just put pressure on this side, he'll pull it down and run with it because that's what he's going to do.
Well, and I think at some point it does not seem like he has evolved because you can only run that read option left, read option right, and I don't know, some other plays that are slightly different than that before the defense catches on. And
that's
I know
what I'm saying.
He has thrown the ball. But real quick, I want to get you on record. What about Breeze? You kind of glossed over that. Is it time or is it not time?
I would agree. I would agree with Wes. I think even if we lose the next 2 games, Peyton's not going to pull. I think if we get to a point where he's lost 5 in a row, then I think Peyton would sit down and say, I got no choice. I'm going to be the coach here for the next 5 years. You're leaving after this year. So we're just going to, say, hey, you hurt your thumb, you hurt your back, you hurt your toe, whatever.
Right.
And we'll sit you on the bench and we'll say, hey, he's a little beat up, so we're going to bring in somebody else and let him recuperate. And then, like I said, if you're going to play these other two guys, play them as real quarterbacks. Call the offensive plays you're going to call, and let's see. Did they throw a bunch of interceptions? Do they, fumble the ball? Okay, then we can evaluate and say, hey, you know what? We got nothing here. We got to draft something next year.
All right. Hey, Heath, they gave Taysom Hill $21 million. Have you seen $21 million worth of quarterbacking / whatever other positions he's playing worth?
No, I hadn't seen $21 worth. Look, I was never convinced, right? I said when they talked about him being the backup quarterback and a quarterback in the future, I'd have had him living with Drew, hang out with him, spend time with him and his wife, follow him around everywhere, take every snap in the offseason as a backup quarterback. When they didn't do that, that told me what they really thought about him as the quarterback of the future. What I can't figure out is why they gave him that money. Some people say, it's kind of for services that he gave before when he was making next to nothing and he, did this, that, and the other. And he's not the quarterback of the future. And I'm convinced that if Breeze – I don't think Breeze will get benched. I think Breeze could lose the next 8 games and he's not going to get benched.
I kind of agree with you. And, again, I don't want to say that in a way that I'm disagreeing with Wesley and Tomas and their opinions because, quite frankly, your opinion might be right. But, man, when I look at it politically, everything – matter of fact, Breeze said Peyton texted him every single day and gave him reasons why he should come back. I don't know how you can do that, and then all of a sudden when things go bad after all these years of success that they've had together, and I know that you guys made the argument that, matter of fact, Heath specifically made the argument that, well, is Peyton really that great a coach if he doesn't have Drew Brees? I don't know how you just turn around and say, hey, man, listen, I got to think about the future. It's important. I got to yank you. I think that whatever's going to happen at the very best, and this is all assuming that the season just goes south. At very best, maybe we see Jameis Winston after he's become more acclimated with the system, like in week 14. Maybe Drew gets an elbow in week 13 and he misses 3 games. I just cannot see Peyton. I mean, I guess what I'm also saying is I just can't see Breeze playing so bad, meaning he could play like he's playing now all the way through the season. I can't see Peyton playing.
That's the thing, Dave. Number one, I don't think Drew Brees will continue to play this way. All right,
I agree.
He'll play better eventually. But the other thing is they have cover right now anyway because Drew Brees isn't actually the biggest problem on the team right now.
Right.
You can't look at this and hang it all on Drew Brees. I mean, you got plenty of coaching mistakes to go on. You got a defense to go on. You got the fumble by Taysom Hill when they could have took the lead in the game. I mean, they've had cover every week that you can't just hang it on Drew Brees anyway. So,
well, I think what you just said there, because, again, I predicated this whole kind of segment on, hey, what are we talking about? What's going on with the Saints or what's going on with Drew Brees? And we kind of went the direction of Drew Brees. But the fact of the matter is exactly what you're saying. It's an interesting subject, but I have every confidence in the world that we will see the Drew Brees of last year. Now, the problem is I think a lot of the fans out there are expecting more than that, and that somehow or another Drew Brees is going to become the Drew Brees of, 2014 and, well, that was a bad season. But you know what I mean, the younger version of Drew Brees. So my point is that I think we'll see a good Drew Brees that we've seen. And matter of fact, I would be curious and really wonder if and question maybe he is that guy, except when you take Michael Thomas out of it. Listen, Drew Brees missed 5 games last year. We won all 5. Michael Thomas has missed 2 games. We lost 2 games. There's an argument to be made that without Michael Thomas, Drew's not quite the quarterback that we think he is at this point in his career. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But I'll summarize with what I can see all you guys shaking your head. I don't expect Drew Brees to continue to play so poorly that it gives anybody a chance to make a decision. So I'd love to sit here and ask y'all another round of questions about when or where or what is Jameis Winston's future, but we'll have to save that for another time. Let's move into our good, bad, and the ugly and see where that goes.
You're a bounty hunter. Man's got to do something for a living these days. Dying ain't much of a living, boy.
It's time for the On Fleek, the Salty, and the Ratchet.
All right, let's get to the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm gonna start with Heath. Heath, give me your good in the game. Who stood out? Who played well? Who's somebody that you were impressed with?
Well, I mean, there's only one place to go, and that's Kamara, right? I mean, I was literally sitting here straining, trying to think of something else because that's kind of the low-hanging fruit, the obvious one. But it really jumped out to me this week, more so than any other, that this is the Kamara of not only before the injury last year, but say the year before that. He finally looks like the guy that's fully back to health, and he can put all of that balance stuff that they show him doing on, all the ridiculous workouts he does and everything. And, that one run in particular that he took the pass behind the line of scrimmage and went all the way down and showed every kind of balance and that you could possibly have. We've been missing that guy for a while because I'm not even sure he was that guy before the injury last year, to be honest with you, but he certainly wasn't after the injury. So anyway, it's good to see him back. And like I said before, I'll extend that out to the whole running game. I'll extend it out to Murray as well. Murray ran well, going straight north and south. I wish the Saints had actually stuck with the run a little bit more at times last week. But so Kamara in the running game is my good easily.
Well, I'm gonna save some time for Wesley and Tomas. I think it was unfair to let Heath go first because after that the cover gets a bit dry. But we're gonna save more time for the bad, and we usually do bad / ugly. We'll have it all for you. So Wesley, go ahead and give me your good.
Hey, Kamara was great. McCoy is going to be my good.
Oh yeah,
Now,
Tomas is bad.
This is not just from the one play that Heath was just talking about with Kamara. I mean, let's just talk about. Eric McCoy comes steaming across the field, waving his arm, letting Kamara know,
Come on, baby.
Get behind me. I'm coming. And then he outruns Kamara. Now, Kamara slowed down a little bit, but he didn't slow down a lot.
No.
Let's be clear about something. Eric McCoy, the big talk about moving him to guard this year, not just because Ruiz is more comfortable at center. Eric McCoy is a very athletic player that you normally can't take advantage of that at center. You can take advantage of that at guard. So the whole point of why we want to move him to guard is for plays like that when he's pulling. But he did it from the center position. He didn't allow a pressure, didn't allow a quarterback hit this week. McCoy had, an amazing game. And I know that he gets the big highlight there on that play. But the two things, him waving Kamara down like, here I come, and then sprinting ahead of him is just amazing. So I'll take McCoy there. He had a great game.
All right, Tomas, you got a good?
Tomas, I don't know what you're going to find to talk about.
Yeah, what's left, baby? What's left?
Well, I'm going to say this. That was my pick, and for that reason and for several other plays that he did. But I'm going to pick another guy from the offensive line as well, Ruiz, because, Pete went down. They bring in Ruiz. They bring in Easton. They ship Ruiz for a rookie who, as Wes said, really is more comfortable at center than guard. He didn't get beat at guard from all the films that I saw. I didn't see the whole thing 17 times, but as I was looking, I didn't see him get beat. All the times that Drew had pressure or he got sacked was that double clutching business, and so, anybody, if you stand back there 5 seconds and you still haven't thrown the ball, well, you're going to get killed, So I would say my good, I would say him, because McCoy was my pick. And the other guy I was going to say was our new tight end, who came in after Cook got hurt with the groin injury. Troutman came in, and he played really well. And Hill on that same run also blocked really well. So there were a couple of bright lights.
Okay. So
Notice
Tomas,
that nobody said anything on defense. So
Tomas, seeing how we had very few and you just went ahead and picked two, I appreciate that, by the way. So.
Well, I was just trying to make sure you didn't have anything left.
No, I saw Troutman actually 2 specific plays. I saw him blocking very well. Now he's a big guy, so he should be, and he's thick too. And man, you can tell he has the nice hands. Okay, you guys can disagree with me or not. Kamara catches a lot of balls. Do you notice how sometimes he doesn't catch the ball cleanly. He doesn't strike me as a natural catcher of the ball. I mean, doesn't mean he can't. Obviously not bad. But when Troutman caught both balls that he caught, it seemed effortlessly, and the ball stuck. And it just seems like he has those Michael Thomas hands that just, there's never a double catch or a bobble. It's caught, done, over with. Go ahead, Wesley.
Yeah, Kamara doesn't catch
I
clean.
agree. Troutman looked good with that. And the big blocking, he was blocking a couple times downfield, and definitely looks like he catches the ball with his hands, not his body. I want to ask everybody, and I'll admit this, on the big Kamara play, when Drew Brees looked downfield and then started turning to Kamara, who was 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, I almost tore my TV off the wall halfway through the pass. I was like, why the hell are you throwing it to him? He's going to get tackled. I mean, when that ball was in the air, I was so pissed off at Drew Brees, and watching, I was just ready to get Kamara get tackled there. And then the play that he made after. But I want to admit the truth.
Right.
I'm so mad.
That's that. No. Yes, 3-pointer that the guy takes a terrible off his back foot, tossing it, fade away 3-pointer. You're like, no. Oh, yeah, great shot. Heath, you had something?
I am all for pulling out every behind the line pass in the playbook and get rid of it. I mean, look, you will never get any argument from me on that. I've never understood that.
I'll testify that when there's a pass, regardless of the outcome, that goes behind the line of scrimmage, I flip my phone over because I know it's about to be blown up by Heath complaining about that, and I don't know if that's misdirected anger at all. So, all right, let's move to the more interesting subject based on a 2-game losing streak. I'm going to start with Tomas. Give me a bad ugly.
Bad ugly? I have to combine them?
Yes, I don't want you to name off 5 players, although
right.
there's plenty to go around. Plenty to go around.
Well, since I have to combine them, then I'll just go with my ugly. And my ugly is Coach Sean Payton. That would be my ugly. Because I think now that we've had 3 games, and I have not seen really good play calling on any one of these 3 games. I haven't seen him adjust the offense like he's done in the past. So it just is ugly. And that behind the line of scrimmage pass that he loves so much and keeps throwing the damn thing, I just, Troutman, like you said, great hands. Okay, so Cook goes out. We still got a great tight end in there. Hit him. He didn't adjust for that. The other team would not have known who Troutman is, because they didn't have film on. So just little things, and like Heath said, that behind the line of scrimmage pass that he just doesn't know when to end that damn thing, And the same thing, I go back to how he's playing Taysom. He plays him the same way every time. Dude, you've played him before at wide receiver. You've played him before at tight end. Let him play there, So my ugly is Coach Sean Payton.
The one, and I don't disagree with that at all, and it seems like it's been a couple of games that way, but I will say that as far as like the Troutman thing, he's obviously impressed enough for the Saints to create a couple of little packages where he's at least a consideration in the route, because that's not always the case. But another example of a guy who didn't have an off season, didn't have a lot of work, doesn't have a lot of experience. So it's going to be a gradual thing to see him get involved. Let's go. Wesley, give me a bad ugly.
And I'll get specific with Cam Jordan.
I saw a meme on the internet. It's the milk. Cam Jordan's picture's on the jug of milk. Where's Cam Jordan?
So I didn't realize he had opted out.
Sorry, Wesley. We got to get all our good comments out and jokes first before you can give us your analysis.
He had 1 solo tackle this last week. I mean, he had 4 total tackles, 3 assists, 1 solo. He has no sacks on the season. This is the guy that was second in the NFL in sacks last year with 15.5. And we're talking about, I think he's got 13 tackles on the year. I don't know where Cam Jordan is. We're not going to use any excuses at this point in his career about whether he's being double teamed or any of that, or he's getting chipped, because that's been his entire career. And I'll tell you right now, I think he's getting double teamed and chipped less than I've seen in the past.
Yep.
I'm saying it's not happening. They are chipping him. And some of the chips were terrible chips. I've also, in the last 2 weeks, seen him get blocked one-on-one by tight ends, which I've never seen from him before.
Standing up. A standing up tight end, not even in a 3-point stance.
yeah, I don't know what's going on. I mean,
I have something I want to throw out there, and I know that might aggravate some Saints fans, but is there some correlation? I don't have any statistics behind this, but since Davenport's gone out, Cam Jordan doesn't seem to be nearly as effective. A lot of people don't want to admit how well
Davenport hasn't played the last 2 years, and Cam Jordan's been just fine. So no, that doesn't work.
Wait, say what?
Davenport hasn't played very much the last 2 years.
Yeah.
No, well, I'm not talking about the last 3 years of his career. So y'all want to talk about Drew Brees playing this year versus what he did 5 years ago?
No, I'm saying Davenport's been out. So, I mean.
Okay, fair enough. But
and you know,
I'm just
Dave,
saying
that Davenport's your guy. I think that's
well,
why
he is my guy.
But
I
you have to
that.
admit, if that other position, then you have T. Hex over there. Are you telling me he's not playing solid
He's playing good football. He is playing good football. I'm trying to make an excuse that that when you don't have somebody over there taking pressure off of Cam, and it's not necessarily the other guy's not playing well, and this is just hypothetical, but part of the reason maybe T-Rex is playing well is that he's getting a lot of one-on-one. If somebody else was over there that needed more attention, would free up Cam on the other side.
I would say that would be more in the interior alignment, I would think.
Exactly.
And I think that's what we haven't seen. We saw it against Tampa early, at least. The middle interior defensive line was being really disruptive.
Yep.
This week they were non-existent.
Did you guys know, and I apologize, I wasn't aware of it, that Onyemata didn't play? I didn't realize that.
Didn't play at all, yeah.
I think that's been the bigger thing from what happened since week one is Onyemata being out. Onyemata being in there, being disruptive, allowed Malcolm Roach to be pretty disruptive.
Yes.
Onyemata being out of there has made the entire defensive line pretty much disappear. I mean, and I think Hendrickson played well the first 2 weeks. This past week, against Packers, he had 1 tackle. So he was not a huge deal this past week either.
Right, but in to Tomas's point, and again, not that I've ever had anything against T-Rex, but he's played very well the first couple of weeks, and you have to give him his credit. Matter of fact, I think I said to you guys in a message that now if Davenport comes back, he's got to play at least as well as T-Rex has been playing, or else you're going to hear a lot more disappointment coming out of it. All right, who's are we up to Heath now with your good or bad ugly?
Yeah. Well, we touched on this earlier, but I'm going straight for the officiating. This has always kind of been my pet peeve thing, but it is getting – I mean, it's getting to the point where it's getting hard to watch football anymore. And I just don't even know how a professional organization can have officiating this bad. And while I definitely think something strange seems to be going on with the Saints with bad calls, there's no doubt about it. But it's not just the Saints games. I'm watching these other games, and I'm seeing horrible calls all over the place. And, they have got to clean this up, man. When you add this on top of everything else going on, there's no fans in the stands. The games are lacking energy. You got all of the political stuff in it. All these different things going on. The product is really getting hard to buy right now. And but you cannot be you have $32 billion plus corporations, football teams in it, with $200 million salary caps every year, and officiating that looks worse than high school. It's terrible, and something has to change about it.
Well, I think you make very good points. Just some of it is I don't know. I don't even really want to get back. I just can't help but think about. Help me out. Was it the Raider game or was it this? It was the Raider game where Sanders does everything they ask you do, not the blindside a guy. He just basically runs up next to him and throws his hands up, and they call him for a blindside hit. And it's just it's mind numbing how you can't look at that and say, hey man, he did everything he could. He still had to put a block on the guy, but all he did was shield him. That's
the other part about it. It's not just the bad officiating on the actual – it's some of the rules really have to be changed. There's some horrible rules. With the blind side is one great example. Some of the hits when the offensive guy ducks and winds up hitting the defensive guy in the head, and they putting it on a defense and all this kind of stuff. There needs to be more common sense in this officiating, right? I'll give you a good one. The play with T. Hex. He got close to Aaron Rodgers. He had his hand up in the air because Rodgers was getting ready to pass, and he basically touched his helmet. I mean, he literally wound up laying his hand on the helmet. They call it, yes, I get technically by the letter of the law that's a foul, but you got to look at the intent. The official's looking right at that. He didn't maul him in the head. He didn't, we saw one against Carr last week, and Carr was smiling, looking at the sideline, and he's doing the thing first. And I mean, it was so weak. And it's like, come on, man, this stuff is just, and I call it either way. If I saw it the other side, it's like, it's just ridiculous, man. I had enough, man. I can't watch it anymore.
It's understandable. Let me get a quick comment. The news breaks today that what was it? Help me out here. The Vikings and another team, Tennessee Titans, come down with positive corona. Huh? All right, I'm sorry. Anyway, you have two teams that come down, and I know neither one of them have anything to do with the Saints, but this is kind of a look into the future of what happens if you get someone who tests positive. What do you guys think with how it's going to affect? I'll start off with you, Tomas. How does this affect the league? What do you think? How does this make you feel? Give me some thoughts.
Hey, you shouldn't have started with me, but okay. Look, I understand that they're concerned about the COVID-19 business, but you're not going to really be able to stop it, so at least not doing it the way that they're doing it, where they rent out the whole hotel because they need to get the whole hotel out, and you still, and again, the test is a momentary snapshot, right? So they take a test. At this moment, you got nothing. You're good. Okay, that's great. 5 minutes from now, I might be infected from somebody else, and you're telling me I'm still good. So, the whole issue is kind of murky at best. But, if the NFL thinks that by stopping the play between these two teams, the interaction between the teams, to shut them down, if they think that's the best to do, okay. You also have the issue in Las Vegas, sorry.
Yeah.
Where they had supposedly somebody come into the locker room that hadn't been checked out and all that business. So, it could be even more serious if they shut down the whole thing. So,
Heath, does this worry you about the future of the season?
Well, it does only because of who's running all this and what decisions they're likely to make. I mean, I think I heard today Tennessee's not even going back to their facility until Saturday, host the Steelers on Sunday.
Right.
At this point, I don't even know if they're going to practice or what. So, in the meantime, we have college. We know that basically Ed Orgeron already came out and said 100% of LSU players have already tested positive for COVID. and LSU's not the only one, right? All the college football, they've all had it. And the bottom line is you haven't even heard of it. None of them even been sick, much less, young, healthy people in tip-top shape and with the kind of training and medical facilities and all that college football and NFL football players have. It's not really going to be an issue for any of them anyway. So I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to get off into a whole nother tangent. COVID
Wesley, you got anything to throw on this?
Yeah, I'll just say one thing that was interesting is I know Mike Garafolo said today that the Titans coaches have already told the players if they have to take off this whole week, not do anything, and then meet on Saturday for a walkthrough and then play the Steelers, that's what they're going to do. As of now, neither one of the games, the Vikings and the Texans and the Steelers and the Titans, the games have not been suspended. And the it would take a lot for them to do that.
Well, and I think that I like that. Now, is it competitively fair? No. But at the end of the day, I think that we all have to look at this season as just a unique point in time, and they have to move forward. I say have to. They don't have to, but I think that they should just move forward. And I'm glad to see that because I think it's bigger than just playing football. I think that this is somewhat of a return to normalcy, and we don't want to disrupt that. Again, now, if guys start getting sick to the point where people are going to the hospital, but what we're seeing right now is just positive tests. And if anything has really come out of this is that There's been a lot of exaggeration, not only for political purposes, but also for funding purposes that you really don't know. I mean, didn't even the NFL just not that long ago had a ton of positive tests, and they came to find out they were all false positives. So who knows exactly what's going on? As long as no one's getting sick to the point where there's obviously health issues, I think that they should move forward. Because again, this goes back to like even kids going back to school. If one person tests positive, not somebody goes to the hospital, not someone gets sick, if one person tests positive, they send all the kids back home. And we don't want that. No, I'm kidding. But the point is that you got to work through these things. So, all right. Any final thoughts? I'm going to start off with Wesley. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll make a bold prediction. I predict that the Saints do beat the Lions, but that Adrian Peterson the 100-yard streak and rushes for over 100 yards against the Saints.
The old man is still looking pretty good, man. I mean, he comes up with 1 or 2 highlights every week.
That's my bold prediction. Saints win, but the streak comes to an end because of Adrian Peterson.
All right, Tomas.
Well, I'm going to make a bold prediction then as well.
Oh, boy.
My bold prediction will be that the Saints will win against Detroit, and it'll be because not Kamara, but Murray runs the ball very efficiently against Detroit, setting up some passing for Drew Brees.
All right, Heath, final thoughts.
Well, I guess I already made mine, and you alluded to it before. I say the Saints go to Detroit and lose. And Stafford throws defensive backfield woes continue. Stafford throws for 500 yards in the Saints.
I'm logging into my fantasy team right now, picking up Stafford just in case.
Oh, man.
Stafford and Galladay.
Hey, good. I tried last week. I picked Green Bay, and then at the final moment, I couldn't keep it, so I had to go ahead. I announced it on Twitter and everything, and changed my pick, but I lost.
Thing.
So
I had Green Bay at one point.
All right. Well, anyway, for Heath Elson, Tomas Mauricio, Wesley Coleman, I'm Dave Romero. You've been listening and watching the BS and Beer podcast crew, and we will talk to you next week.
And anyway, the person who sits here is but the most conspicuous member of a superb team of journalists, writers, reporters, editors, producers, and none of that will change. Furthermore, I'm not going away. I'll be back, and that's the way it is.